Hey guys, Joe here. So in this video, I'm doing a little update because it's been a little while. So it is mid-August at this point. Things are starting to slow down slightly. Well, actually, that's kind of a lie because the last few days have been busy. And so, but normally it slows down this time of year anyway because it's the last few weeks of summer for most people. So up north, I know down south, like most people are already back in school, but up here, typically it's like that first week of September, kids go back. So these last few weeks is, last minute vacations and getting ready for school and, all that kind of stuff. So, which is to be expected. Sales wise, we're still doing well. We're a little above what we were last year. So, which is good just considering the economy's really not that great. So there's that. As you can tell if you watch other videos and stuff like that, I end up getting a new car. So I did get a Tesla, and it's one of the things I want to talk about because I think that honestly their marketing sucks. And even though they do sell a shit ton of cars, I think they could sell a hell of a lot more. So I'll go into this stuff like that. And and then just some conversations I've had with contractors and whatnot, and and really my chiropractor. A lot of the things are very similar, so hopefully it'll help. What the fuck are you doing, dude? Legit almost ran into me. So anyway, so that kind of threw me off a little bit. So as far as the marketing and how this kind of coincides with contractors, because I think talking about a few different things, it might help you realize that your marketing is probably lackluster, and same thing for mine, it could definitely be better. So number one, so as far as the model I got a Tesla S. I got the Plaid. It's a 2023, so it's 2 years old. Had 20,000 miles on it. And the reason why I did that is because honestly, I still can't even see spending $100 grand on a car, and not that I can't afford it. It just seems kind of crazy still. And so I was able to get 40% off. So. And I think just mostly because people don't like Elon, so shout out for that. But this was a car I've always loved. Always, I loved the looks of it. I never even test drove a Tesla until probably about 2-3 months ago, and then after that I was like, okay. And I test drove the regular, the 2025 regular, and a few of the things that were important to me and not too many people talk about is, so number one is I had a Pontiac G8. It had 300 and I think stock it came with 355 horsepower, but then I threw in intake tune, deleted the mufflers and something else. And so it probably was closer to 300, 380, 390, something like that. And the uniqueness of the car was great, and the zero, just going from whatever stop to whatever, above the speed limit, just say speed limit. I need something that was quick. That's the only thing I was really worried about. And the other thing is, because it's summertime, I've been thinking more of I don't really want to drive. I wanted I would love to have a chauffeur and personal chef and all that kind of stuff, because I'm trying to get as much stuff off my plate as I possibly can. And so that's where the things that initially attracted me, and then I just spent a few weeks trying to research and find something that was going to be what I was looking for. I really didn't even want the white interior, but here we are. And the reason why I got it was because it was one, the vehicle was local, and two, I think I ended up saving about $5-6 grand compared to what the average sale price of these vehicles are. And so anyway, some of the things that they don't talk about, and number one, so they don't do any marketing, which they made a product that is whether you like it or not, millions of people love the vehicle. Now, between the Model 3s and the Ys and whatever else. And so some of the things that are important to me, and I wish they would have said something, is like, honestly, as a business owner, so right now I have the auto, like the full self-driving going, and it's not absolutely perfect, but it's like pretty freaking close at this point. And the fact that I don't have to think makes it, it just increases my bandwidth throughout the day. So like if you're traveling and doing a lot of, with the quotes and whatnot, and then you have to, while you're doing the quote, you're thinking about what's going on. You're probably getting calls of like things are getting screwed up at the business and things like that. When you have it where like you can start getting things off your plate, it makes things so much easier, right? And we can just, it allows us to be able to focus on other things as well. And now when I initially was looking at the cars, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to set up a laptop and I'm going to be able to like, freaking just work all the time. But that's not really the case, because like there's a camera up here that actually looks to see if I'm like paying attention. So if I look away from the, looking ahead for any length of time, it's going to actually like alert me. So, and then if there's like a person that's stopping in front of me or, anything, they will actually start beeping at me and stuff like that. So I have actually found myself paying attention more, which is weird, than I normally would have, because like it's very easy for me to become unfocused and look in different directions, and that's where I start seeing myself, like instead of going in a perfectly straight line, it's like I'm kind of hugging the lines and going from, I'm not weaving, but anyway, so that was one of the things. So it increases my bandwidth. There's a lot less stress involved as well, because again, you're not paying attention to it, like honestly. So I've used it more than I thought it would. Today's actually my last day for it, and actually tomorrow's my last day with the free trial. And so at this point, it's like $8,000 for like lifetime, or it's $100 a month. Honestly, $100 a month, it's totally worth it in my opinion. So that's what they haven't talked about. And I'm trying to think what else. I should write this shit down. Like that's what it needs to be. So going into some of the other stuff, and like, oh, I really should go back to this. So the whole point of this story is that, number one, there's a lack of marketing, right? So it's pretty much what you hear about is from other people. There's really not much of any advertising as far as Tesla goes. So that's the one problem. So, and then the other problem is because they don't advertise and they don't look at the people's pain points and like what they actually care about, it causes a lot of people not to even like consider the vehicle, or even further, there's a lot of people that hate the car because it's electric, or hate the company because it's electric. Now, people hate the company as well just because of Elon, which, can't change that. But I'm not here to like save the planet. Like that's not why I switched. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. I shouldn't say I don't care. I care because, I have a 14-year-old and I have a 5-year-old. So, as far as making sure I'm putting recyclables in the recyclable bin and things like that, like the small little things, like I do that. But as far as making big life decisions, as far as like choosing a car that's based on how good it is for the environment, like that's just not me. And I think that's what most people are getting pushed towards, right? And the other thing is, like, in the first few days, like, I was stressed as all anything with making sure I had enough miles. Did I have enough battery power and things like that? And number one, like, I've had more than enough. So this thing charges to 80%. And then from that, I have about 260 miles. And that's with the Plaid version. That's with 21-inch wheels and things like that. And I can't really complain about that, right? So I was able to go down the shore. It takes me about an hour and a half or so, depends on traffic, hour and 15, hour and 40, depending on the traffic. So I think it's like 70 miles or something. And so to go there and come back, I still have like 90 some miles left. So I can go like there, back there. And so it's more than enough. Now I could charge it to 100% and then I would get even more. So then I would get probably another 100 miles. So I could probably go back and forth like to the shore, 2 round trips, something like that. But honestly, like everywhere I look at the Wawas and everything else, there's the superchargers that are literally everywhere. So like once I realized that, I'm like, shit, like I have no problems, right? And then as far as the other thing, like the cost savings and everything else, so it's still too early to tell, but like the things they don't tell you about is like, obviously you got to set up if you want to be able to charge quicker at home, just because using the superchargers isn't great for your battery. But going and doing that, so it cost me like $450 plus it probably cost me like $1,200 for the to get the power supply set up at the house. And like honestly, the fact that I don't have to go get gas it's pretty damn nice. Like just I pull up to the house and I go and just plug the thing in. Like it's very simple to do and doesn't take me any time. And then when I'm ready to leave, I just unplug it and I get going, right? And so it's very convenient in that fact. And then if I was the type of person that every time I went to Wawa, just say, like, and this is where the sales starts getting into it. And this is the thing, like, there's so many different ways that you can advertise, and because people have different pain points for everything. And there might be this one, like, they're on the fence, but there's something that finally like pushes them over the edge. And it could be someone that's trying to quit smoking, right? And so what if every time they go to Wawa or whatever gas station there is, that they always, like, for whatever reason, they can't fight the urge and then they end up going in and getting a pack of cigarettes. Well, what if you don't have to go get gas anymore? You know what I mean? So that's where, as crazy as it sounds, but you could use that as a reason in Tesla's marketing, right? And it's the same thing if people are trying to get a fence for whatever reason. Like, why are they getting a fence? And it's for all different reasons. And the thing is, though, when you're advertising, you don't know what that is going to finally push them over the edge. So this is where we have to create a lot of different ads for it, right? And it's not hard to do. You could literally put it in ChatGPT or Claude or whatever and go through it, like figure out like what are all the potential reasons. Now I already did this for a tree company, right? And like obviously the tree, it could be because it fell down, right? Well, maybe like there's all these other reasons why. Maybe they have a pool and they're tired of getting the leaves in the pool. Maybe like because of the trees around the pool, that like now the pool's always cold. And because it's always cold, now the wife won't go in it, and they're talking about getting a heater for the pool. And then, and now that's going to cost whatever, plus, an extra $300, $400, $500, $600 a month. Like there's all these different reasons why people may want to get their tree work done, right? And you just don't know what's going to work. You have to like test out different things. And like honestly, it's more of like a comprehensive approach where you're trying to target all these different things, right? And so that's something that Tesla could have done better with that. Now, as far as with the saving costs and shit like that, I didn't personally know that I could schedule when this thing would actually charge. So I could like literally plug it in, and then I can pick and choose when it will actually charge. Now, why does that matter, right? Well, it matters, and I wasn't even thinking about it until like I was looking in the app. But as far as the electric goes, it goes for like you have the peak hours and then you have the off-peak. Well, the off-peak hours are going to be cheaper than the peak hours. So then you can customize when this thing's charging, so that way you can get the best price possible. It's pretty damn cool. Like, and I wouldn't think about this kind of stuff, right? And then on top of it, that's where I can get into the solar and whatnot. And speaking of solar, I'm not getting solar at this point. But I personally, for the last several weeks, I've been looking up how, like stuff. The Tesla is like constantly, like always looking for, in the initial, there's like questions I was having, right? And then once I was like, okay, now I know I'm ready. I know what I want at this point. Like I know I wanted an S. I wasn't really trying to even get a Plaid version, but now I'm really happy I did because it's fucking fast as anything. It's ridiculous. And that's not something most people talk about either. Well, they talk about how fast it is, but how much freaking fun it is to drive again, even though I'm not driving now. It's been huge. And so speaking of the solar, so if I've been looking up Teslas and between questions about Teslas and everything else, this would be the perfect opportunity that if someone was looking up something about a Tesla, that the solar companies would either be advertising about it or they would be doing SEO and blog posts and YouTube videos and everything else regarding the Teslas. Now, why? Because at this point, if I put solar on my roof, then I basically am getting free mileage out of my car. Think about that, right? And so that's where we can, again, the videos and everything else, and the ads are simple. It's like, hey, are you in South Jersey and you're thinking about getting a Tesla, or have you recently just got a Tesla? If so, you may want to get solar, because now that you're saving money from not going to Wawa, now you can basically get your shit for free, because now the sun's going to power your car for you for free, right? And go into that, right? Or even for the, because I tell contractors about this kind of stuff, even tell them stuff so that way they don't use your company, right? So, and what I mean by this is for fence companies, if you're trying to supply, like if you're trying to obviously get, leads coming in the door for people that want a fence, right? Well, some of the reasons why they might want to get a fence aren't really reasons why they need to get a fence, right? They may think because there's a few posts leaning that it needs to, like their whole fence needs to get replaced. They may think because their fence kind of looks like shit in some areas that they're gonna need a whole brand new fence. But the problem is most people are broke right now, right? And there's not, like, I don't care what anyone says, like the economy is not great. And it's because it's just a simple math of, number one, everyone was pretty much leveraged to the max anyway, and then now you throw in like the wages really haven't gone up, the shit's crazy expensive, so like people are just further and further and further in debt, and so they can't afford it, right? But they can, they may not be able to afford the $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 fence, but can they afford a $2,000 staining? Right? And that's going to prolong the fence for an extra few years. Are they able to reset some posts or have someone come in or, fix a few rails or, put in some new posts or whatever? Yeah. And like, what if instead of $8,000, it's now only $1,000, right? Well, show the customers that, show like through the ads and whatnot. You can do a quick video about the stuff. It's not hard to do. And the shit works, right? And so that's some of the things that you can do. And the thing is though, you want to find literally all the reasons why someone may possibly think about getting a new fence, right? Or whatever service that you happen to provide. Again, I'm talking about solar companies because of Tesla. The other thing is, why aren't the electricians, same thing, why have they not, why am I not getting ads for that kind of stuff? I really don't see ads for electricians that much. I see like HVAC and things like that, but not electricians, right? But it would be the same thing. It's like, hey, are you in the South Jersey area and you're thinking about getting a Tesla? Or have you recently gotten one? If that's the case, you may have been thinking about getting a wall charger. Well, here's 3 things you really want to know before having one installed, right? And one of them could be is it going to work in that location, right? Because I think this cord on this thing is like 16 feet long or 20 feet long or something like that. Well, it just fits where I normally park. Now, it would easily fit and make sense where if I swapped with my wife, but she's a creature of habit and she won't change, so my car is where it is, right? But that would be something if I was seeing ads for an electrician that was specifically trying to proactively help me and make sure I don't have a problem when I get this thing installed, I am way more likely to hire them instead of anyone else. Why? Because they've already shown that there's they're building that level of trust for me, right? Just because they're trying to be helpful and give me some kind of information, right? And the nice part when you do this kind of stuff is you scale this so rapidly because you don't know what's going to work, right? But the thing is, you can do these video ads and like awareness campaigns and things like that on Facebook, and for like not much money. If you have like an extra $300 a month or $10 a day, like you can test out a decent amount of ads. You can probably run with, obviously the more budget the better per day, but if you're running $10 a day and $300 a month, then you can realistically probably get a solid numbers with 3 to 4 ads. Spend about $2.50, $3 a piece on each one a day, and you'll quickly see which ones are outperforming the others. And then what you can do after that is start tweaking them to see if you can improve them at all. And it's just basic stuff. It's like, well, like maybe it's like instead of videos, I'm going to add a picture, or instead of pictures, I'm doing video, or if I'm doing a picture, like maybe it's like the colors and stuff like that I need to change, or whatever it happens to be. And like people just don't do that kind of stuff. And what's happening, and I talk to contractors all the time, is like they're hurting for business, and everyone's saying the same thing, where there's not as many leads coming in, and when they do, like they feel like they're constantly having to drop the price or whatever in order to book the job. And the reason for that is because, number one, if you're a fence company, there's not like a high cost of entry, right? So for me, I spent like $100. Now this is like 10 years ago at this point, but probably spent $100 because I already had like some hand tools, so I only really needed like a post hole digger, digging bar. Well, really the digging bar, that's a story for another day that I've talked about. But like there's really not much in there. You don't have to get certification or anything like that. And like now, especially with YouTube, like the YouTube of today, like you can literally learn anything, and the fencing's pretty damn simple, right? So, and what I tell people, and because the one guy that came in this week alone, is that he's complaining about the landscapers. And he's like, it just seems like everyone does it, whereas we're just a fence company, and basically we're better because we just do fence, where they're like a handy, more or less like a handyman that does everything. Well, homeowners don't care. They don't care that's all you do. They don't care. In fact, I think it's actually a negative that it's all you do, right? In the mind of the homeowner. Now, as far as a business owner, like I feel it's much better to stick with one thing and that's it. But as far as a homeowner, like I don't want to hire anyone because everyone sucks. They don't show up, they don't do what they're supposed to, and things like that, and it's just really freaking annoying. And like I'm going through it already with and he's actually one of my customers, which makes it even more difficult, is he did paperwork last year, everything was nice. He did paperwork this year, everything was pretty much good. And then, so after we had all this landscaping done, I didn't want to have like weeds everywhere. So it's, we already had a landscaper that mowed our lawn, and I was like, hey, looking, basically keep taking care of the weeds, pull them every week, when you guys are out here, just, let me know the cost. I don't really care, like just let me know so we can get it done. And he's like, well, we don't do that, we just spray once a month. And I was like, well, I don't really want chemicals just sprayed once a month. I want someone to just, quickly pull this stuff. Because like, especially if it's kept up on a weekly basis, like you're not having that much weeds, especially for like what I did. So my landscaper, I gave him like the last chance, and I said, like, if you can't do this, I'm gonna have to use someone else, and end up having to use someone else, right? And so this landscaper, there's constant problems. Like we specifically hired him because of the weeds, and now his guys don't even pull the weeds. Like it's crazy, or even spray them, which is annoying. And like a lot of times we may not know. So if you are sending your guys on quotes and whatnot, like there's a chance that you think shit's getting done, but it's not really getting done. So And so anyway, going back to the guy talking about like, oh, the landscapers and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, if I was starting over again, like honestly, like I would start as a landscaper. And he's just looking at me. I'm like, think about it. I would much rather get in the door for like, you know, these $35 or $40 long cuts. And because at that point, like that's a low barrier offer. Like they call it, in marketing world, they'll call it like an LTO, which is a low ticket offer. So it's basically like, how do we get them to spend the least amount of money just to get them in the door? And it's really to get them as a customer. And because once they're a customer, they're more likely to order more. But the other thing is they're a lot of times they're just trying to get their contact information so that way they can email market them or even with the Facebook ads and things like that. And so they want to just get in the door for that. And I said the same thing. I'm like, if I was starting over again, be a landscaper, I would get in the door for the lawn care, because after that, you're getting seen week after week after week, right? So then the homeowner naturally just starts going, hey, do you know how to do this? Hey, can you do that? And, you know, do you know someone that does that? And it's like, yeah, actually, we do it, right? And so that's why I think it would be important to, if I was going to start again, it'd probably be as a landscaper, just because I can build off of that. Now, I would want to market myself as like a high-end landscaper that is, you know, it's not about being the cheapest by any means. It's actually about, sorry, let's see. It's first time doing easy pass with this shit. Yes, okay. So, I don't want, forget going back. So, about being the, I don't want to be marketing as the cheapest, but I want to be known as the guy that shows up, clean cut, all that kind of stuff. And because then from there, as your guys are, you know, if my guys are at this homeowner's house, then I can start marketing towards the neighbors. And it's the same thing. And like, but the mistake a lot of these guys are making is like the landscapers, like we just do everything. Whereas I would be like, all right, I want to do lawn care just to get them in the door. That's my LTO. Or it could even be for pavers or something like that, where it's the paver renovations kind of deal. Because we had to get that done this year as well. Get the sand, you know, get everything power washed, add the paver sand, whatever that should, polymetric stuff, and then, you know, seal it. And so I would want to be known for, again, like the quality showing up and all this other kind of stuff. So that way, when it comes to the pavers and whatever else, I'm able to charge that premium price, even though everyone's charging less. More than likely, I'm going to get the job because I've already built in that trust. And this is where you can do this at scale with the videos, right? So just some random thoughts. I think it could definitely be helpful. And in fact, the problem is that people don't do this, right? And because they're worried about that they're going to look like a moron or, you know, whatever. And the other thing that people aren't doing is like they're just not reaching out to their current customers enough. And I'm doing the same exact thing right now, where I know for myself, like I built most of my business because of email marketing. And now it's like I don't even do it that much anymore. And it's like, then I'm looking, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you not doing this, right? And so, you know, so a lot of times I'm doing these videos, but it's like towards myself as well, because like I need to be reminded. And as Alex Hormozy says, but I know he got it from somewhere else, is that we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. So hopefully this helps. And because like talking to the contractors, like I will tell them over and over again. And in fact, this week, the one that came in was actually a helper. And so I specifically, you know, I said to them, like, look, if you guys do this, if you take the video and send it to me, I will put money towards it, and I'll start I'll advertise for you, right? And the reason why I said it is because, number one, I'm tired of just hearing myself say the shit and then no one does anything with it. And then the other thing is, like, I just want to prove that it actually works. And then the third thing is, like, if they end up booking more jobs, like, we sell more fence material, so it's like a win-win-win-win-win, right? So, and you know what happened? Nothing. He never did it, right? Which is frustrating. So it is what it is at this point, but, you know. And then the same thing happened with the chiropractor. So I went to the chiropractor for the first time in 2 years, right? And the reason I went is because my neck, like I can crack it again. And so it just was really tight. It just wouldn't crack, and it just felt like it was gonna I don't know, it was just uncomfortable. And so anyway, I go to the chiropractor, and he's like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, yeah, it's been like 2 years. And I'm like, yeah, because you never sent me a text message, right? The reason why I said that is because the last time I talked to him 2 years ago is I'm like, you really need to start messaging your people on a regular basis to get them back in the door, because he is the only one at his, he's the only one. And at this point, there is, like, he's legit the only one. Like, when I went in there, it was only him. There wasn't even, like, a secretary up front. It was literally just him. And, like, I looked at getting an appointment at, just say, 1 o'clock on a Monday. And he already had, like, they have weird hours where they do, like, part in the morning. And then they shut down for a few hours. And then they open back up from, like, 3 to 7. Well, they had 3, 3:30, 4, 4:30, 5, 5:30, 6, 6:30, 7, right? Or 6:30, because they're open till 7 o'clock or something. Every single one was filled, and even though it was 1 o'clock, in the afternoon on the same day. And so when I said it to him, like, dude, you got to send stuff, right? And so anyway, he does my neck and he does whatever else, and he's like, so, you want to make an appointment? And I was like, I'm like, nah, not right now. And I'm like, but you really should send me a message, right? And he's like, all right, I'll make sure I send you a message. I haven't seen anything yet. It's been about 5 days at this point. But the thing is, like, they just don't, and as far as the text messages, people just don't want to bother other people, so they feel as though, like, if they, if they're sending too many text messages, they're going to piss customers off and things like that. But like I told him, I'm like, 2 years ago, you told me, like, it's only you here, right? And he's like, you're the only one that practices, right? And he's like, yeah. I said, so if you go on vacation, there's no money coming in, right? And he's like, no. I'm like, you told me that, 2 years ago, you wanted another person here and you wanted to be busy enough so that way you could have, someone else doing the adjustments and things like that as well. And I'm like, you got to do the videos, right? He still hasn't done them. It's been 2 years I've been telling him about this shit. And he just hasn't done it. And because he's afraid of looking like an idiot, he's afraid of, and the crazy part is his brother actually does the videos. Like, I think he's more of a YouTube star now than anything else, and his brother's, like, right down the street. But it's like, why are you not, like, you already see this shit works, like, why are you not doing it? Like, it makes no sense. I don't know. So, anyway, trying to think of what other should happen. Oh, so now we have another product that's coming out. So we have a pressure-treated fence. So the pressure-treated fence, so when we used to install, when we had the installation company a few years ago, whenever we had pressure-treated, we would always buy from Home Depot or Lowe's. The reason why we bought it from Home Depot or Lowe's is, well, number one, so in this area, most people will buy full panels and put them up. I know in other parts of the country, most other parts of the country, like, everyone stick builds or, builds on site. But this area, people just don't, like, they just don't. And so we would buy the panels from Home Depot or Lowe's because they were going to be cheaper than the fence supplier. And it was just the same shit because they were all coming from, at this point, Brett probably owns most everything. But, more than likely they're coming from Brett or some subsidiary of Brett. And so we never bought it from them. But the things I hated about it is, like, it didn't rack. They didn't use stainless steel nails, so, like, there would be the rust stains that would be dripping everywhere, and it would drive me insane. And customers would be bitching, and, like, the rails, they say they're 2x3. I don't even think they were 2x3. Obviously, the dimensions, 2x3 should really be a 1.5 by 2.5, but they weren't even that. It was almost like a one, like the actual dimensions were like a 1 by 2.5. So it was almost like they sold, the rails were a 1.5 by 3, I guess. I don't know. And so we didn't buy it because, again, it was, the issues and like, the pricing and everything else. So what we did instead is, so to make this as cost effective as we could, is so we started bringing in all the pickets and rails separately. We're actually building this stuff in the warehouse. We actually got the first panels built today finally. And so it's been working out pretty well. It's just been a lot of stuff to figure out. And whenever something happens, like today was happening quite a bit, where we were trying to figure everything out. And because we had everything set up, and we go to put the first ones in there, and the pickets, which are typically 5.5 inches, the ones that we have seen and used and all that kind of stuff, well, everything was at like 5 5/8 or 5 3/4. So then most of them that they pulled were like the 5 3/4. So then we really need to put 17 pickets on a panel. Well, they had 16 on there and they only had like 4 inches left. So we needed to get rid of 1.5 inches from the last picket, right? But obviously you can't cut a picket down by 1.5 because it's going to look like shit. So we end up having to cut 3 pickets and cut them all down by like 1/2 inch, and have to put the dog ear piece back in there. But and the other thing is we're using stainless steel nails. We used actual 2x4s, and so we have this much better product, and I'll be able to market that to the homeowners, right? And basically show it's like this is our panel, this is Home Depot's panel. Like if you're gonna buy something, you want to buy this one. It's because it's gonna last longer, and it's not gonna look like shit because we're using stainless steel nails. It's gonna last way longer because we're using 2x4s versus these 1.5 by 3s. And the other thing is, like, some of the things that would drive us crazy, whether buying from the supplier or from Home Depot or Lowe's, is that they would just leave them outside. They would get like completely wrecked out there, and then but it would always be like one panel that was like the bottom like 2 foot of it was always discolored, and because that was the part that was out in the sunlight, whereas everything else was kind of covered. And so you'd have 2 foot of the fence would, not every panel, but 2 foot of some of the panels were gray, and everything else was like its normal greenish color or whatever. And so it would drive us crazy. So now we're like, number one, we're going through, and if the rails are fucked up, we just don't use them. If the pickets are messed up, we don't use them. And and then we're using the stainless steel, and we're making sure everything works. The other thing that we started doing, or will be doing, is instead of right now we double nail everything, but we will be building panels that are single nailed, so that way they can go up and down hills. You obviously want to stick with the 2 nail setup, but this will allow them for certain sections to take care of that. And so again, we have this much better product. It's much heavier duty and things like that, but there's a problem with it being so heavy duty, and that is that people have to carry the friggin' thing, and it is heavy. I don't know what the weight is, but it's about 15 pounds heavier than the pressure treated from the other companies, like from Home Depot and Lowe's. So now it's like, we know that's going to be a problem for the contractor, so now we have to do something about that, because if we don't do something about it, they may buy it once, but they're going to have such a horrible experience that they're not going to want to do it again, right? And so we end up finding these carts. So the carts are like a dolly, so it's only like, I don't know, they're like a foot wide, like foot by foot or something like that. So it's not like a full-on dolly by any means, but they come with these like, these came with 10-inch tires. We actually upgraded them to 13-inch tires because of the ground clearance. So it's basically just 2 wheels, and you got this thing, and it's like hinged in the middle. So as soon as you put the weight in the middle, it actually will collapse on itself, which is a good thing because it basically clamps on itself. So now when you're rolling it, the panel stays, or the post, whatever you're taking, it's nice and secure because it clamped on itself. Make sense? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to give these away for free. And so it's going to be like, your first order of 20 panels, 25 panels, or whatever, you get this for free. Now these things cost me like, by the time I added the tires and everything else, like we're looking at close to $200 that I paid for it. But I don't care because number one, we're still going to make money, but I'm just trying to figure out ways to get them in the door. And so this may work, it may not work, right? But the important thing is, like, when I start running the advertising for it, is that I need to look at it from several different angles. Same as like what I was talking about with Tesla, right? So some people may care about certain things, and while they may not care about other things, right? So some of the things they may care about is maybe like the husband or the wife or whoever is like super OCD, right? And so if they're super OCD, the nails, like the rust stains from the nails, might drive them absolutely bonkers, right? So we can do ads specifically on that. And it's just something simple like, hey, are you thinking about getting a pressure treated fence? Well, before you do, you may want to know this one thing, because if not, it may drive you insane, right? And that's when you go into the video about the rust stains and just physically show them what that looks like. And the reason why I keep on talking about these freaking rust stains is because, one, they look like shit. The other thing is I almost missed out on my son's, I don't even know how old he was at this time. It was probably, I don't know, 8, 9? I almost missed out on his damn birthday party because of fucking rust stains, right? And it sounds crazy, but like, I had this homeowner, we installed a fence, and like his sprinklers went off, and like the next day, everything, the rust was just pouring down, right? And like, if you've never dealt with it, like, you're lucky, but like each nail, I don't even know how it produces this much rust, but it would probably be like almost a foot of rusting going down every single nail. Well, when these boards are like, there's 2 or 3 nails per rail, per board, right? So you're looking between 6 and 9 nails for that times 17. So I don't know, what's that, 120-ish? I don't know, just say about 120 nails. 120 lines of rust going down. Looks like shit, right? So that's where I could specifically talk about that, like for the OCD people. If people are there, like thinking like if they want this for the long term, same thing. We can talk about the rails, how they're 2x4s instead of this, and show that quality. The other thing that we did is, instead of having the rails where they typically are for Home Depot and Lowe's, we actually moved them up. I forget the spacing, how tall, like high they were from the top of the picket, but just say before they were, I don't know, like close to a foot. I think they were like 11 inches actually. I think it was like 11. And so I actually moved it up. So I basically put one rail, because we had the jig all set up, and then we built a panel. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I really think we can make this even better. And to do that, I basically raised the top rail and I lowered the bottom rail, and I just basically put it on top of the other one. So then now this one's like, I think I have it at 6. I moved it to 6 or 7 inches from the top of the picket, and then same thing for the bottom. And the reason why I did that is because of the warping. You know, if you have like a foot of space, it's more leeway for that picket to actually, oh Jesus Christ. This is kind of like, it's amazing yet scary at the same time when the fucking car's driving for you. But anyway, so we did that as well. So now it's like I can put all these different pain points again towards the homeowner and be like, look, if this is what you're looking for, like, hey, are you thinking about getting this kind of fence? You may want to look at, like, watch this quick video, because like this is potentially going to save you a lot of time, issues, problems, whatever, right? And so go through and show them, and it's like, oh, by the way, if you want this, like, we're the only ones that have it. So you're probably like, so even if they're getting quotes from other contractors, like, we at this point, we just be like, they're gonna go, and it's like, well, they have people come out, it's like, well, I want it from this place, and the reason why, oh Jesus Christ, whew, this is craziness. It's crazy. It's crazy, it drives itself. Like, it just is. Like, and people, a lot, like, now that I go in my wife's car, like, I don't even understand. I thought I would miss the V8 sound. Like, that was one of the, like, and that was one of the, so actually there's a few reasons. So the things that I was really concerned about with going from my V8 to a Tesla is the noise or lack thereof, right? So now it's like I don't have that rev of the engine. I'm like, I really am gonna miss that, right? I don't miss it at all. Like, I didn't miss it, like, zero. And then the other thing is, I would talk to people and, like, because people would still stop me. It's like, oh, I love your car, because, like, it's just, people just don't see them anywhere. And plus, it does sound good, and from a distance, it looks really good. All blacked out, black rims, like, you name it. From a distance, it looks great. From a distance, but then when you're up close, it just gets worse and worse looking. The inside's horrible, and, like, you name it, and there's all these kinds of issues. And so I'd get stopped all the time, and they're like, oh, I love your car. And it's like, well, actually, like, thanks, but I'm about to get rid of it. And they're like, oh, what are you getting? And, like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna forget the look this guy gave me. When I told him I was getting a Tesla, his jaw dropped, and, like, the look of disgust that came over his face, it was crazy. Like, it was so funny. And then I literally got stopped, like, an hour later, and same thing. And then, so I was telling people at work what I was getting, and a lot of them, like, the one guy's got a Dodge Ram, and he, like, we always talked about his truck, and, like, he, like, took off the muffler, like, loud as shit, sounds awesome, looks awesome, and same thing. And it's like, people are giving me a bunch of shit for it. And so what I did, because the other guy, Leon, was doing the same thing, family friend that works for me, and he was saying something. I'm like, dude, like, you just don't understand. So I'm like, you just got to get in the car. And, like, the feeling of going from, like, 0 or, like, 10 miles an hour to, like, fucking, like, 70 in, like, literally no time whatsoever is, honestly, it's something that probably will not get old at all. Like, it's crazy, right? And so once he got in the car, he's like, oh, like, I understand now, right? And, like, there's so many different things that Tesla could have done. Going back to that, like, they really should have some kind of loaner program where it's like rent a Tesla for the week. I think so many more people would end up getting it just because, like, they just don't know. Just my thought. And then, so speaking of that, like, how can you apply that kind of thought process to your company, right? To your advertising? Oh shit. Oh, this thing fell off. Let's see if I can get that. There we go. I guess that'll work for now. So anyway, so yeah, like, how can we apply that? It's like, oh, like, test drive a car. Like, you really can't do that for most businesses, like contracting businesses, right? Yes and no. So my neighbor just recently got their fence installed, or finally about to finish their fence. And, like, I've had my fence for years and years, and, like, I know it needs to get power washed. Like, I already knew, right? But now I sit out my back door, and because, or I sit on my patio, because the way the yard is, it goes, like, up in the air. And so now I can see their fence right next to my fence, and mine looks like complete shit. Well, my landscaper should be like, and because I do power washing, and I've talked to him about power washing before, but he hasn't even sold me on it. But whatever. So I'm about to get into the shore. I'm going to turn this off now, but hopefully I upload this and hopefully get some value out of it. So anyway, talk to you. Bye.